All right, good morning. Welcome in. Week 18 is upon us. We are there. We made it to the finish line. Hope everyone is doing well. If you're playing for something meaningful today, let's make sure we get our lineup straight and look for those matchups that our players are going to be actually doing something important this week. So we've seen a couple games where players have already been sitting and starters have been on the sides, and probably going to be the trend as we continue today. So if you have some questions about your lineups, we'll be happy to answer them. I have no idea what to expect today. Obviously, I'll be flying solo this week. Week 18 is one of those weeks where most leagues are wrapped up. So we're just kind of taking a look at any of those leagues that have something to play for this week. Maybe you're in a league that has a 2-week championship, week 17 and 18 combined points. So here to help you out this morning. So if you do have any questions, you can get them into the chat. We'll make sure to answer them as soon as possible. If you have anything else that you'd like to discuss this morning, we're very wide open this morning, as week 18 is an interesting one. So we saw a huge performance last evening by Mr. Trey Hendricks, who probably has the sack championship wrapped up after his 3.5 sack performance last night. So if you were playing him, you're off to a great start. Hopefully you weren't playing against him in any leagues. As we look across the landscape of the NFL today, we've got several teams playing for something. We have many teams playing for absolutely nothing today. So that'll definitely make a interesting lineup decisions for you. Kansas City obviously isn't playing for nothing. They're resting their starters as Carson Wentz is under center. They had an interesting trip to Denver. They were stuck on the tarmac yesterday, I guess, for like 4 hours. So that took them a little bit longer to get out of Kansas City than normal. So we'll see how those players respond to that. Obviously, Buffalo isn't playing for anything. They're locked into the number 2 seed. We may see Josh Allen for like a series just so he can continue his consecutive game played streak. Houston's playing for nothing. Head coach DeMeco Ryans did say that it would be nice to get his starters out there for a series or a quarter just to see if they can get kind of right the ship there a little bit, as Houston's kind of faltered as the last few weeks. Philadelphia is obviously playing for nothing, so that's going to impact players like Zach Bond, things like that for us. So those are going to be some teams we're definitely going to avoid today for sure, just not knowing what's going on there. And then there are some teams that have something to play for. Washington players and Green Bay players are kind of back and forth on the 6th seed. Washington is taking on the Cowboys, and so that should be a game. So also Green Bay is playing the Bears, so that's always a big game just because it's a divisional game. So Summer's got a question. She says, good morning. Had a quick question on starting 2 of Spillane, Fred Warner, Wyndham, Jacob Wyndham, Luke Gifford. Thanks. I also need 1 out of Merrick, Derwin James, and Chin at DB. Appreciate it always. Well, thank you for your questions each and every week, Summer. I've been a big fan. As far as the linebackers go, I'm probably leaning right now. I'm going to lean Spillane for sure because he's just been one of those players that's out there all the time playing. I think Warner is going to be one of those players that's going to probably sit here a little bit versus Arizona. He's kind of a tough one to cast this week. I'm actually going to lean Spillane and Wyndham in this one just because Wyndham's been playing 80% of snaps or more in the last couple weeks. I'm going to guess that they're going to hold Josie Jewell out. Now, if Josie Jewell is ruled active in this game and they do play an early game, so you'll know right away, then I'm going to actually pivot to Luke Gifford in this one. So I would rank them Spillane, Wyndham, Gifford, and then Fred Warner this week. And as far as your defensive back question, I'm actually going to lean probably Merrick in this one just because he's probably going to play all the entire game. The Chargers really don't have anything to gain. They have very little to gain by playing their starters the whole game. So I could see Derwin James playing very little. And same as for Chin. So I'm going to go with Merrick there. So it looks like we're heavy on the Raiders this week between Spillane and Merrick. So best of luck to you this week. Hopefully that is sound advice. And then kind of getting back to the playoff pictures here a little bit, we were looking at some teams that need a little bit of help. So other teams that we're really interested in this week are teams like Denver, because they need to win to get in. If they don't and Miami wins, then Miami gets in. Miami is obviously going to be needing a win over the Jets today and a little bit of help from Kansas City backups for Denver, or for them to get in. Detroit and Minnesota obviously are great matchups on the Sunday night slate, just because that's playing for the NFC North championship game or championship. So Detroit and Minnesota are going to be some a good players to like look at, and then also Tampa Bay and Atlanta are also some pretty good matchups to be looking at. A lot of players have their props on the line this week too. I'm sure if you've been on social media at all the last couple of days, you've seen a lot of players that are trying to get incentives. There was a story last night. Kyle Van Noy got his sack total, so he made some little extra cash by getting his sack prop that he hit. So I know it's a narrative that we talk about often, but the players know it. They know what's going on too, so they're looking for that, and they're looking for that extra payday as well. So players like, I know if you're playing offense, you're looking at like a player like Mike Evans this week is a great one, just because he needs a couple catches and some more like 89 yards to hit his 1,000 yards for the seventh consecutive season. The players know this, so they're going to be out there. They're going to be doing that, and Baker Mayfield knows that he's going to be targeting him. So a player that like I really like this week is probably a player like Will Harris and the safety for the Saints, because Tampa Bay is going to be a team that's going to be, pushing the ball. They're trying to win the game, and they're going to play a lot of snaps. And, as a result, our defensive players like Will Harris is going to be a player that's going to benefit from that. So that would be definitely a player to look at, see where he's at. Maybe, I don't know if there's a line or a prop out on him yet. I was looking last night and I didn't see anything. So week 18, like I said, it's a really interesting one. It's kind of a random, lot of randomness this week. So if you're in a league that plays week 18 and you're frustrated with this, now would be a great time to talk to your league about maybe changing or amending the rules to get rid of week 18 championships. You work so hard through the season to get to this point, and then only to have it kind of like, be a roll of the dice here in week 18. So that's really unfair to you and your work to get there. So hopefully we get a couple questions this morning. I'm not expecting too many at all. It's a really light week for championships. Hopefully everyone sewed them up in week 17. Hopefully we were able to give you some advice throughout the season about who to add, players to pivot away from, things like that. So just kind of looking at some of the other storylines from today. We got a lot of players who are playing could be their last game in their current jerseys. Obviously the Jets are in a huge rebuild. So what kind of effort are they going to come with today? Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers are obviously going to be on their way out the door there in New York. So what does that look like for them? We're going to see a lot of stories of coaches losing their jobs here in the next few days. We've already seen stories of interviews going on, like Vrabel with the Jets and things like that. So just a lot of culture changes that are going to be happening in and around the football. So it's kind of an exciting time, not only for those teams in the playoffs, but teams that are looking to hopefully get to the playoffs next year. So other than that, just Adam Schefter tweeting about some stuff. He just, how he is. He's always nagging. Yeah, like we were saying, like a lot of players are questionable to be playing today, just as far as like what they're playing for. There's no incentives for many of these teams. The Patriots currently have the number 1 draft pick right now. The Bills aren't playing anybody. What kind of game is that going to be? Kind of looking at things like that kind of storyline, or just making week 18 even more challenging. Ryan's got a question here. Worried about Achane with Tua. Worried how long Dobbins may play, although the Steelers loss gives them something to play for. Yeah, and so with the Steelers losing, the Chargers have a little more incentive here, maybe to like get into the 5 spot over the 6. So even without with Huntley last week, we saw Achane kind of be a focal point. Like, he had a lot of opportunities, he just wasn't as productive with them. But I'm with you here, Ryan, as far as how comfortable we feel about Dobbins this week. Looking at Achane's numbers from last week, he did play 53% of the snaps last week. He did get 10 carries. He did get 2 targets in the passing game. We kind of pull up Dobbins here quick just to. Yeah, Ryan, I think you kind of nailed it here. I think the worries about Achane without Tua under center, that offense kind of changes a little bit with Huntley. He's a little bit more of a scrambler instead of like an on point. And I know that's Miami's offensive. They're like a 1-2-3 throw kind of a timing offense, but Huntley kind of changes that. So I think I'm with you here. I'm gonna roll the dice here with Dobbins this week. He's probably a better chance, an opportunity for a touchdown, especially as they get closer to that goal line, because with Gus Edwards being out, that's going to help his chances. So if it is a PPR, Ryan, I might kind of like push it a little more towards Achane, but I still think I'm going to lean Dobbins in this one. So best of luck to you. As we kind of continue to kind of talk about some of the storylines and things around the NFL, we see a lot of players looking at being heavily invested in, players that are looking at, Kyler Murray is an example. He's got a passing touchdown prop and a rushing touchdown. So is that a play over San Francisco today that we look at if you're looking at the quarterback position with Kyler Murray? One running back. Jose needs one running back, one wide receiver from Jennings, McMillan, Dobbins, Hall, Carter Hall, or Herendo. I'm going to go with McMillan as my wide receiver in that group. And then probably I'm going to go to Herendo playing against Arizona. Arizona is a team that you can kind of beat on the ground and run the ball. I think Deebo Samuel is out. So I think that's obviously going to help Herendo keep those touches. So I'm going to go with McMillan and Herendo in that one. Jose, best of luck to you in your Week 18 lineup. So, so we're just kind of looking at some of those storylines. There's some fun games that are going to be on the slate today. I think there's a couple teams that are obviously playing for something who will be having their starters out there. Denver is one of those teams. We're looking at players like probably Cody Barton is probably a very safe play today. Safeties Brandon Jones is probably a safe play today. Those are going to be some players that are going to be out there because they got to win to get in. And then obviously the NFL did us a favor with flexing the Minnesota Vikings Detroit game to the Sunday night game. Really, really good matchup on paper. Two really good offenses, two defenses that are capable of having some really good playmakers, between the Vikings having Blake Cashman. We've got obviously the boys on the front line, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard. In the secondary, you got Josh Metellus. We got some players on the Vikings. And then Detroit has some players as well. Obviously, they lost a little bit when Aiden Hutchinson went down. But, Jack Campbell has been a solid producer for us from IDP aspects. And then also like Brian Branch. So it's going to be kind of an exciting way to wrap up the regular season. So, all right. So just kind of thinking here, if anyone has any questions, any ponderings going on. I'm just seeing if obviously we're way ahead of the active list here about who's in and who's out. But maybe give it like another 10 minutes here or so. And then if we don't get any questions, we'll kind of maybe wrap up the season. But as always, we appreciate everyone being on and listening all season long, asking questions, those kind of things. The content over at the IDPshow.com isn't going to stop during the off season. Got to start ramping up here for after the playoffs are done. We'll start looking at free agency moves. Obviously, the draft will be a really important topic for many discussions about where players are landing and the prospects themselves. And then as we get into best ball season, that'll be fun for a lot of people who haven't been part of the IDP best ball madness. Encourage you to sign up for that. It's a really fun format. Just wrapping that up here this week as well. And then we'll obviously get into the content with our draft boards and things like that of who to draft, players who are going to break out, players who are fading, things like that. And we'll continue right into the season like we did this year with Mike Woolard and his IDP Green Dot article. We'll have the streaming articles, both as the defensive backs by Johnny the Greek and the defensive lines from Scott Solis. So we really will have you covered 24/7, 365. So just encourage you to stick around. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button on the IDPshow.com so you're always informed about anything and everything IDP. And probably not too much excitement this week in the world of the NFL. A lot of teams shutting it down. But like we had mentioned earlier, we really appreciate everyone's support throughout the season. It's been a blast doing these week in and week out. We appreciate all of the special guests that have come on throughout the year to kind of help us with them. Eric Harms has been on several times. Scott Solis has been on several times. Jackson Swam has been on. Jake Colhagen, kind of the flagship person here. We had Mike Woolard on a couple of times. So just really appreciate their efforts. I know that's pretty tough on a Sunday morning to get up when you're trying to set your lineups to come on and do those kind of things, but we appreciate their work throughout the week, and then also to put in a little extra time on the weekends with that. So big shout out to them. If you're not following any of them on any of the platforms, I encourage you to strongly do so. A wealth of knowledge, just a bunch of great dudes as well. So it's a win-win when you talk like that way. So, all right. Well, we are probably going to wrap up ship here today just because of the flow of things. It's going to be a pretty late week. Hopefully you're not playing for anything this week, but if you are, best of luck to you. Please be sure to check out the content over at the IDPshow.com. Hit me up in the DMs if you need anything. I'll be more than happy to ask or help you with any trade advice, anything as far as players to target, players to fade, those kind of things. Just because the season wraps up doesn't mean that we're not talking football. So again, we appreciate all your efforts throughout the season. Thank you for making our season a fantastic one. And our friend Daniel has a question here. Not a lineup question, but I have a chance at winning IDP Madness, fingers crossed, with Khalil Mack and the Chargers are still locked. Yes. So anything can happen. He could probably have a Trey Hendrickson type game, 3.5 sacks. The Chargers are going to get up against Aiden O'Connell and the Las Vegas Raiders. So there's obviously a chance for some sacks there from Mr. Khalil Mack. He hasn't quite had that big boom game that he had in years past. I know that last year he had like that huge, massive, like 6-sack game that kind of sent him over the top. He's doing pretty well this season. He has 6 sacks as a total, but he's been kind of quiet as of late. So maybe this is the big game, Daniel, that you're kind of hoping that he has his big breakout game. So best of luck to you in that madness. I know that there's really, really tight getting down towards the end. There's a lot of players that are really watching that inactive list because they have some players who are either going to help or hurt them in that. So, as Daniel mentioned, the IDP Madness, it's kind of a really fun format. We drafted just like a best ball. We draft in August, and then you set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it. There's no trading. There's no add or drops in that league. And so really you just have to really avoid the landmines of injuries and things like that because just need to be healthy at the end of the season. As with your own leagues, that as well. So, but just kind of a fun format. playing with players from managers from all over the world. So it's kind of a neat format for that regard. So not to go down that rabbit hole anymore, but all right, we are going to wrap it up. We appreciate you. Thank you very much for everything, your support all season long. We look forward to bringing it back to you again next season, and we'll be talking to you soon. Appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.